The air inside the alien research hall shimmered with blue light. Rows of machines hummed softly, pulsing like a heartbeat through the cold metal walls. Beyond the glass, a lone human lay unconscious inside a transparent chamber. His name was Ethan Cole, an engineer from Earth who had been lost during a deep space exploration mission. He had no idea where he was, or that an entire species' fate now rested upon him. Dr. Liara Venn, a tall alien woman with silver eyes and skin that faintly glowed under the light, stood before the chamber. She wore a long white coat, though the symbols on it were nothing like Earth's science markings. She was a xenobiologist from the planet Virelia, a world that once shone bright with life but now teetered on the edge of extinction. Their world had been ravaged by a strange plague that targeted their genetic line. Over the past decade, millions had perished. The Virelians, known for their intelligence and grace, now lived in silence, watching their numbers vanish with every passing season. The Council of Elders had ordered every scientist to search for solutions, no matter how strange or desperate. And that was how Ethan Cole, the only surviving human found near their border space, became the center of their last hope. Liara's gaze stayed fixed on the human inside the chamber. His breathing was steady, his body slowly recovering from the stasis field that had kept him alive for months. She'd studied every record of his biology, cells, structure, endurance. The data was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Human DNA, resilient and chaotic, contained traits her people had long lost, traits that might hold the key to survival. Her assistants, smaller beings with translucent scales, whispered among themselves. "Is it true, Doctor?" one of them asked. "That this being can endure radiation levels fatal to us?" Liara nodded slightly. "Humans evolved on a death world," she said softly. "Their strength lies in adaptation. If we can understand how, maybe we can integrate that resilience into our future generations." The assistant looked doubtful. "But the Council forbids direct experimentation." Liara turned toward him, her expression unreadable. "The Council forbids failure. They gave me permission to find a cure. I intend to deliver one." She turned back to Ethan's still form, her heart heavy. For years, she had watched her people's numbers fade, including her own sister, who had been one of the first victims of the plague. Liara had sworn she would never allow her world to die quietly. If the human was their last chance, then she would understand every secret in his body, with or without the Council's blessing. Suddenly, the monitors flashed. Ethan's vitals spiked. The tranquil rhythm of his heart became rapid. His brain activity surged. Liara stepped forward quickly, tapping the console. "He's waking up," she whispered. Inside the glass chamber, Ethan's eyes opened for the first time in weeks. The light burned and his mind spun with confusion. The last thing he remembered was the explosion of his ship. The sudden flash, the sound of tearing metal, and then darkness. Now he saw an unfamiliar ceiling, alien symbols glowing around him. When he moved, the air felt heavier, different. His muscles trembled as if gravity itself was heavier here. He tried to sit up, but a soft mechanical restraint kept him in place. Where am I?" he muttered weakly. Liara stepped closer, her calm voice cutting through his confusion. "You are safe, human. You were rescued from the wreckage of your ship. You are on Virelia." Ethan blinked, trying to make sense of her. Her voice was melodic, but her form was strikingly alien. Silver eyes, faintly luminous skin, and hair that shimmered like strands of liquid metal. She wasn't human, but there was something deeply human in her gaze, an emotion he couldn't place. Curiosity, pity, or hope? "Virelia?" he echoed, struggling to breathe. "That's not in the star charts." Liara pressed a button and released the chamber seal with a soft hiss. The glass lifted. Cool air rushed in. She approached slowly, careful not to startle him. "No," she said gently. "Your world does not know of ours. We stayed hidden for centuries, but circumstances have changed." Ethan rubbed his forehead, his head pounding. "What kind of circumstances?" Liara hesitated. How could she tell him that her people's survival depended on him, that his existence might hold the cure they needed? She decided to speak carefully. "My people are ill, Ethan Cole. A sickness spreads through our generations. It erases what makes us who we are. We have searched the stars for answers, and you, human, may hold one." Ethan frowned, not understanding. "Why me?" "Because," Liara said, her tone heavy with both sorrow and determination, "you are the first living being we have found who carries what we no longer have. genetic strength that defies extinction. The room fell silent. The hum of the machines filled the air. Ethan's mind raced, trying to grasp what she meant. He wasn't a scientist, just an engineer. But from the way she looked at him, he could tell. This wasn't just an experiment. This was desperation. He looked at her, his eyes sharp despite his exhaustion. "You're saying you want to study me?" Liara met his gaze without flinching. "Study you, and perhaps understand how humanity survived what countless worlds could not. We seek knowledge, not harm." Ethan sighed, leaning back. He didn't trust her yet, but he saw no malice in her voice, just pain. Deep, weary pain. Liara motioned for her assistants to leave the room. When they were gone, she turned back to him and spoke more softly. "I know this is difficult. You were taken from your home. But please believe me, human. If we fail to find an answer soon, my world will end. Every child born will die before adulthood." The raw honesty in her words struck him. He could see she wasn't lying. For a long moment, they just looked at each other, the human survivor and the alien scientist, two beings from different worlds connected by tragedy. Finally, Ethan said quietly, "Then tell me what you need me to do." Liara exhaled slowly. For the first time in years, hope touched her heart. "First," she said, picking up a glowing scanner, "I must understand you completely." As she began her gentle examination, scanning his body for signs of mutation, adaptation, and resistance, Ethan closed his eyes, thinking about how strange his life had become. He had set out to explore the stars. He never imagined he'd become the key to saving another species. Through the glass wall, the blue light flickered across their faces. Liara watched the readings climb higher, her heart racing. The data was astonishing. Human DNA showed energy patterns unlike any she'd seen. This wasn't just survival, it was evolution at its wildest. Her voice trembled slightly. "Incredible. You may truly be the answer." And though Ethan didn't yet understand it, that moment marked the beginning of something far greater than either of them imagined. An alliance born not of conquest or science, but of shared hope. When Ethan finally stood on his feet, the world of Virelia looked nothing like anything he had ever imagined. The walls of the laboratory curved upward like the inside of a great silver shell, and beyond the tall windows the horizon glowed green and gold beneath two suns. The air shimmered with a faint mist that sparkled like dust caught in sunlight. Liara watched him quietly as he tried to balance himself. His steps were uneven at first. Virelia's gravity was slightly heavier than Earth's. Still, he pushed himself upright, determined to prove he wasn't as fragile as the aliens thought. "You adapt fast," Liara said softly, typing on a console as she monitored his movements. Ethan gave a tired smile. "Humans are good at adapting, especially when we don't have a choice." Liara studied him with a calm but curious gaze. There was something about his resilience that fascinated her. Something beyond data and measurements. He had no protective gear, no special conditioning, yet his body was already adjusting to an atmosphere most species would find toxic. "You are not what I expected," she murmured. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What did you expect? Some kind of hero from your stories?" She shook her head. "No, I expected fragility. Yet you survive where others fail. It makes me wonder what it truly means to be strong." Their exchange was interrupted by the sound of approaching footsteps. A tall, older alien male entered, his robe marked with the golden insignia of the Virelian Council. His eyes were pale blue and sharp. "Dr. Liara," he said sternly, "the Council demands progress. You have already exceeded the allowed time for study." Liara turned to face him, her expression firm. "I have made progress, Elder Rin, but it is not complete. The human's biology is more complex than expected." The Elder's gaze fell on Ethan. "So this is the creature you believe can save us?" Ethan stiffened. He didn't like the way the alien said creature. Liara sensed his discomfort and stepped slightly forward, as if to shield him from the man's cold stare. "He is not a creature," she said sharply. "He is a living being, intelligent and willing to help. Treat him with respect." Elder Rin frowned. "Respect will not save our people. Results will." He looked back at Liara. "You have 7 cycles left to prove your theory. If you fail, the Council will end this project and the human's presence." The words hung heavy in the air. Liara's heart sank. She knew what the Council meant. If they ended the project, Ethan would not be allowed to live. He would be seen as a threat, a failed experiment. After the elder left, Ethan asked quietly, "What did he mean by that?" Liara hesitated. "The council fears outsiders. They have lost too much already. They think every experiment is a risk. I told them you could be our hope. But if I cannot prove it soon..." Ethan understood without her finishing the sentence. "Then I better help you prove it." Liara blinked, surprised. "You would help us? Even after everything?" He smiled faintly. "On Earth, we don't walk away from people who are dying. If there's a chance to save lives, I'll try." For the first time since the plague began, Liara felt something warm rise in her chest. Trust. Over the next days, Liara and Ethan worked side by side. She explained how the plague affected her species. It wasn't a disease in the normal sense. It was something that attacked their genetic structure, erasing parts of their DNA that controlled cell repair and fertility. Generation after generation, their bodies weakened. Soon, no new life would be born. Ethan listened closely as she showed him holographic images of their cells dissolving under the microscope. The sight was haunting. "It's like your DNA forgot how to fix itself," he said softly. Liara nodded. "Exactly. We tried everything. Artificial restoration, cloning, even cybernetic merging. Nothing worked. Every attempt ended in failure." Ethan thought for a long time, then said, "Maybe the answer isn't just in your DNA. Maybe it's in what your bodies can't handle anymore. Change." Liara tilted her head. "Explain." "Humans survive by changing," he said. "When the world gets cold, we adapt. When it gets hot, we evolve. Maybe your species stopped changing because your world stopped challenging you." The idea made her pause. Virelia had been stable for thousands of years. The planet's perfect balance of environment and technology had made life easy. "Maybe too easy." "You're saying we became too comfortable," Liara said softly. Ethan nodded. "Maybe. And your bodies lost the ability to fight back. It's like unused muscles, they fade if you don't use them." Liara looked at him with quiet awe. For someone who claimed to be an engineer, he had the heart of a scientist. His simple observation carried a truth her people had overlooked for centuries. They began testing small experiments. Liara used her scanners to record his cell regeneration rate under different conditions. Each time, Ethan's body showed astonishing recovery, even after simulated radiation bursts that would destroy a Virelian's cells in seconds. His DNA repaired itself almost instantly. "How do you do this?" she whispered as she watched the data. Ethan laughed softly. "We just don't quit, I guess." His humor made her smile, something rare among her kind lately. The more time they spent together, the more Liara began to see humans not as test subjects, but as symbols of what her people had lost: courage, chaos, unpredictability, and hope. One night after hours of work, Liara stood on the balcony outside the lab, looking up at Virelia's twin moons. Ethan joined her quietly, his hands resting on the railing. "It's beautiful," he said. "Your world." She glanced at him. "It used to be full of laughter. Now silence is all we hear." He looked at her gently. "Then maybe it's time to change that." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind carried soft particles of glowing pollen through the air. Liara turned to him with a strange expression. "Your arrival has already changed much. The council watches us closely now. Some believe you are a miracle. Others think you are a threat." Ethan smiled wryly. "That's usually how humans are seen everywhere we go." Liara's lips curved faintly. "Perhaps that is what makes you dangerous and valuable." She then placed her hand against the railing, her gaze thoughtful. "Ethan, if I can prove that your DNA can merge safely with ours, we might restore what was lost. Not by force, but by shared strength," he nodded. "If it means saving your people, I'll do whatever test you need. Just don't let them use me like a tool." Her eyes softened. "I promise you I will not let that happen." It was a quiet promise, but it carried weight. Days passed. The data grew stronger. Liara's results showed that integrating a small fragment of human genetic code repaired the damaged strands in Virelian samples. It was proof. Hope made real. But as soon as she reported her findings, the council summoned her. The chamber of the elders was vast, lit by a single sphere of white light at its center. Elder Rin stood among others, his expression unreadable. "You claim the human's essence can save us," he said. "Then why delay? Begin the full process." Liara stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. Because it must be done carefully. If we rush, we could destroy both species, another elder hissed. The sickness spreads daily. We do not have time for caution. Liara clenched her fists. If you treat this human as a tool instead of an ally, you will lose everything. He is not a sample. He is a partner in our survival. The council murmured in disapproval. Elder Rin's voice turned cold. You are letting emotion cloud your judgment. She met his gaze steadily. Maybe emotion is what your logic forgot. The silence that followed was deep. The elders finally dismissed her with a warning. If she failed to deliver results within 3 cycles, both she and the human would face termination of research. When she returned to the lab, her face was pale. Ethan immediately noticed. What did they say? They gave us a deadline, she said softly. 3 cycles. After that, we may not live to see another sunrise, Ethan's jaw tightened. Then we better finish this fast. Liara nodded, her determination burning stronger than ever. Yes, she whispered. Together. And as the twin suns rose again over Virelia, their light cast long shadows across the lab, shadows of danger, discovery, and a bond that was only just beginning. The laboratory was quiet, except for the soft hum of the machines that lined the walls. Blue light flickered across the floors and ceiling, reflecting off the polished metal surfaces. Liara moved with precision, preparing the samples and equipment for the next stage of their experiments. This was the moment when theory met reality. Ethan observed her closely, sensing the weight of the task they carried. Every step, every decision could mean life or death for an entire species. He had come to understand that the human qualities she admired, resilience, courage, adaptability, were not just physical traits. They were also a mindset. You'll be okay, Liara said softly, sensing his tension. We've done everything we can to prepare. Your body adapts faster than we expected. The process should be safe. Ethan nodded, though his hands were slightly shaking. He had been through dangerous situations before, but nothing compared to being the center of an alien species' survival. I trust you, he said. Just tell me what to do. Liara smiled faintly, though worry lingered in her eyes. Then let us begin. The first trial involved a controlled simulation. Ethan was placed in a chamber that mimicked extreme environmental conditions. Heat, radiation, low oxygen. Virelian scientists had been studying the human body for decades, but nothing could prepare them for what came next. As the simulation started, Ethan's muscles strained, his lungs fought the thin air, but he pushed through every limit. Liara watched, her eyes wide with astonishment. His cells repaired themselves almost instantly after every tiny injury caused by the environment. He breathed steadily, sweat glistening on his forehead, yet his body refused to break. Her assistants recorded every reaction, their whispers full of awe. He's quite incredible, one of them said. Liara nodded, but her focus remained on Ethan. Do not overdo it, she instructed. This is only the first step. Ethan raised a hand. I can handle more. I want to help. She shook her head, smiling faintly. Strength alone is not enough. Your mind must endure as well. The next step tested cognitive adaptability. Holographic puzzles, alien languages, and logical challenges filled the chamber. The simulation changed every few minutes, forcing Ethan to respond quickly. Liara monitored his brainwaves, noting the human capacity for problem-solving under stress. He's learning faster than expected, one assistant whispered. Liara frowned thoughtfully. It's not just learning. He's creating patterns, solutions we never considered. Humans think differently. That may be the key to our survival. Ethan grinned as he solved another complex puzzle. It's just logic and observation, he said. You aliens overcomplicate things. Liara laughed softly. It was rare for her to laugh these days. The sound seemed to lighten the air, if only for a moment. The final trial was the most critical. Liara had prepared a genetic interface device that could safely transfer select human genetic sequences into Virelian cells. The goal was not to change Ethan, but to allow Virelian DNA to learn from the human code, repairing what the plague had destroyed. As she explained the procedure, Ethan's hands clenched. Will it hurt me? No, Liara said firmly. The interface is non-invasive. It records and transmits data at a cellular level. You will not be harmed. Your body will simply share its strengths with us. Ethan took a deep breath and nodded. Then let's do it. Liara guided him to the device. It hummed softly, glowing with gentle pulses of light as it scanned his body. Ethan felt a tingling sensation but no pain. Slowly, Varelian cells on the screen began to show signs of repair. Weak, broken strands realigned. Dormant genes reactivated. For the first time in centuries, Varelian DNA began to heal. Liara's heart raced. "It's working," she whispered. "It's actually working." The assistants cheered softly, but Liara's focus remained on Ethan. She saw him sweating slightly, fatigue lining his face, yet his eyes remained steady, full of determination. This human, so ordinary in appearance, was extraordinary in every way that mattered. As the procedure continued, Liara noticed subtle changes in herself. Watching Ethan, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Hope. Not the shallow hope of a desperate scientist grasping at possibilities, but true hope, grounded in results, in life itself. Ethan, noticing her expression, asked quietly, "What is it?" She hesitated. "Nothing. Just realizing how much your presence matters." He smiled faintly. "I think I'm starting to matter." Liara's gaze softened. The bond between them had grown beyond researcher and subject. It was something more profound. Trust, reliance, even friendship. The gravity of their shared responsibility created a connection neither of them could ignore, but their focus could not waver. The interface data showed that while progress was remarkable, it was still early. Integration at a larger scale would be more complex. The council would demand results, and soon, one evening, as the twin suns of Virelia set, painting the sky in shades of green and gold, Liara and Ethan sat together in the observation deck overlooking the alien forests below. "You've changed things already," Ethan said quietly, gazing at the shimmering trees. "Even before the council sees the results, you've given your people hope." Liara sighed. "Hope is fragile. It can be crushed as easily as it is given. We must succeed or all will be lost." Ethan turned to her. "Then we'll succeed. You're not alone in this." Her heart stirred at his words. "I know." For hours they talked about their worlds, their lives, the mistakes and triumphs that shaped them. Ethan shared stories of Earth, of exploration and human courage. Liara told him of Virelia, of its history, of the silence that had fallen over her people. Through each story, they learned not just facts but the spirit of one another's species. The following day, Liara began preparing for the next stage, replication. The successful genetic transfer had to be applied to multiple samples, but the risk increased exponentially. Even a small mistake could destroy the fragile DNA strands, or worse, harm Ethan. She explained the procedure carefully. "We will start slowly. Each sample will be integrated with a fragment of your DNA. We must monitor carefully. Your body will guide us, but you must remain calm and cooperative." Ethan nodded. "I'm ready. Let's save your people." The process was meticulous. Sample by sample, Ethan's genetic strength repaired what had long been damaged. Virelian cells repaired themselves in ways Liara had never thought possible. The data was beyond promising, it was miraculous. Liara could feel the tension lift slightly in the lab. The assistants whispered in amazement, watching the healing process unfold. And through it all, Ethan endured, not just with physical strength, but with patience and courage. Later, when the trials were over for the day, Ethan leaned against the railing, exhausted but alive. Liara approached quietly. "You did more than survive," she said softly. "You gave my people a chance. More than that, you reminded me that strength is not just in the body, but in the spirit." Ethan looked at her. "I'm just a human, but if I can help, then that's enough for me." Liara's eyes glimmered. "You've done more than enough. You've already changed the course of history for Virelia." For a moment, they simply stood together, watching the alien moons rise above the horizon. Outside, the forests glowed softly, as if reflecting the newfound hope inside the lab. And while the council still demanded proof and the threat of failure lingered, Liara knew that something extraordinary had already begun. Two very different species, one human, one alien, were bound together not just by science but by the fragile, powerful force of hope. In that quiet moment, neither of them spoke about the future. They only knew that they had taken the first step, and that for the first time in centuries Virelia might see another sunrise. The laboratory was alive with quiet anticipation. Virelian scientists worked diligently, scanning every readout, recording every result, and double-checking each calculation, The successful trials with Ethan had proved that the human genetic code could heal the damaged strands of Varelian DNA. Now, the challenge was integration on a larger scale, a process that would determine the future of an entire species. Ethan stood in the center of the lab, surrounded by the soft hum of machinery. He felt a mixture of pride and pressure. Every time he had seen a Varelian sample repair itself under his influence, hope had brightened Liara's eyes. He knew the stakes. Failure was not just personal but catastrophic for an entire civilization. Liara approached him, her expression calm but intense.
"We are ready," she said.
This stage will be more complex. The interface will now link multiple samples simultaneously. Your body will act as a guide, distributing its resilience to repair and strengthen them. Ethan nodded, though his nerves stirred. I understand. Let's do this, the process began. Ethan lay on the interface platform, his body bathed in soft blue light. Machines monitored every heartbeat, every nerve impulse, and every cellular reaction. Liara controlled the operation from the console, her fingers flying across the controls. Stay calm, she instructed. Focus on your own breathing. Let your body do what it knows. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling a connection to something greater than himself. It was as if his body understood the responsibility it carried, distributing its strength like a river flowing into parched land. Varelian cells in multiple samples began to repair themselves, and dormant genes activated as if recognizing the spark of life within him. The assistants whispered in awe. It's working, one said. Liara's voice trembled slightly. It's more than working. It's thriving. Hours passed. The process tested Ethan's endurance, but his human resilience proved extraordinary. Varelian cells continued to integrate the genetic sequences, repairing what the plague had destroyed. Liara monitored every detail, her eyes never leaving the readouts. Finally, the interface concluded. Ethan slowly opened his eyes. He was exhausted, but his chest swelled with quiet satisfaction. Liara moved to his side, her expression one of reverent relief. It's complete, she whispered. Every sample shows full regeneration. Varelian DNA is healing. Life will continue. Ethan exhaled, the weight of the moment settling over him. So, it worked? Liara nodded, her voice soft but firm. It worked. You did this. You saved my people. Tears filled her silver eyes, and Ethan realized the depth of her gratitude. It was not just for the success of the experiments, it was for the hope he had restored to an entire civilization. Word of their success spread quickly through Varelia. Citizens who had lived in quiet despair now walked with renewed vigor. The council, initially skeptical, convened to witness the proof. Samples from multiple generations of Varelians showed complete restoration. Life once threatened with extinction would continue. Elder Rin, the same man who had doubted Ethan and Liara, approached them in the observation chamber. His expression was unreadable, yet his eyes betrayed awe. You have done what we feared was impossible, he said. The human's presence, it has changed everything. Liara stepped forward, her voice steady. It was not just his presence, Elder. It was his strength, his spirit, his willingness to help. Humans are remarkable in ways we had forgotten. Elder Rin nodded slowly. Indeed, perhaps our species needed not just science but a reminder of what it truly means to survive. Ethan listened quietly, feeling both humbled and proud. He had come from a small, distant world, and yet he had played a pivotal role in the survival of another species. The weight of that reality was enormous, but he also felt a quiet satisfaction. Over the next weeks, Ethan and Liara continued their work, refining the techniques and ensuring the safety of the restored DNA. The process became more efficient, and Varelian families began to plan for children once more. The planet, once silent with despair, now hummed with life. Ethan had adapted fully to the environment of Varelia, moving among its people with ease. They admired him not only for his contributions to science, but for his courage and kindness. Children would approach him, asking questions about Earth, about humans, about the way he had endured the trials, and he would smile, answering patiently, knowing that his presence had inspired a new generation. Liara, meanwhile, had become more than a scientist. She had become a bridge between two worlds, between human resilience and Varelian precision. She often looked at Ethan and realized that while he had saved her people physically, he had also restored a spark of humanity that her civilization had lost. hope, trust, and the willingness to embrace the unknown. One evening, as the twin suns set over the horizon, Ethan and Liara stood on a balcony overlooking the Virelian forests. The sky was painted with hues of green and gold, and the soft glow of the moons reflected on the tranquil rivers below. "Look at this world," Ethan said quietly. "It's alive again." Liara nodded, her silver eyes glimmering in the fading light. "Because of you, human. You've given us a second chance. My people will never forget this." Ethan smiled faintly. "I didn't do it alone. You guided me. You believed in me." Liara's gaze softened. "Belief was easy. The courage was yours." For a long moment they stood together, silent, watching the world they had saved. Outside, the forest whispered with life and the rivers sparkled like molten silver. The plague that had threatened Virelia's existence was no longer a shadow over their civilization. A new dawn had arrived. The council held a ceremony to honor Ethan and Liara's contributions. The alien citizens of Virelia watched as the human who had come from the stars was acknowledged as a hero. Symbols of gratitude were presented, and the restored citizens of Virelia offered blessings for his courage and sacrifice. Ethan stood humbly, accepting their respect with quiet dignity. He understood that he had been part of something far greater than himself, a story of survival, trust, and the shared will to live. Liara, standing beside him, felt a deep sense of peace. The bond between human and alien, once forged in desperation, had grown into mutual respect and friendship. Their collaboration had not only healed a species, but also bridged two civilizations in understanding and trust. As night fell over Virelia, the twin moons shone brightly, casting a gentle glow over the planet. Ethan and Liara returned to the laboratory one last time, standing before the interface device that had changed history. "It's amazing," Ethan said softly. "To think something as simple as being human could make such a difference." Liara nodded. "Not simple, extraordinary. You carried the future of an entire species in your hands." "And in your heart," Ethan smiled. "Then I'm glad I didn't give up." She reached out and placed a hand gently on his shoulder. "Neither did I. Together, we've reminded Virelia that survival is more than science. It's courage, determination, and the willingness to trust the unknown." They stood there in silence for a while, feeling the quiet triumph of a world saved. Outside, life continued, strong, vibrant, and free from the shadow of extinction. A new era had begun, one shaped by the resilience of a human and the dedication of an alien who dared to believe. And so, Ethan Cole, the human from a distant world, returned hope to Virelia, bridging two civilizations with courage, wisdom, and an unwavering spirit. His story would be remembered for generations, not only as the tale of survival, but also as a testament to what can be achieved when different worlds unite for a single, noble purpose. The future of Virelia was no longer uncertain. It was alive, thriving, and filled with possibilities, and it all began with the trust and courage of one human and one alien determined to change the fate of a species.